Welcome to Geek Do-It-Yourself Mechanic. The purpose of this video is to discuss a case study about an overheating problem in a Honda Civic. So let's navigate there. From the home page we go to Case Studies and Overheating. I so happened to be calling one of my friends, and he told me that one of his cars overheated as he was driving in traffic during a very hot day in where we live. What was unfortunate is he said he had to keep driving even though his temperature gauge was pegged. I always suggest to people, if any gauge in your car is pegged into the red or getting there, I suggest pulling over. You may be late for that appointment, but you could be saving yourselves a lot of time, headache, and especially cash. You blow a head gasket, unless you do it all yourself, you're speaking probably at least $2,000. With the milling work, parts, and the additional things they want to do, change your timing belt, and you'd want to do anyway. So it's really worth pulling over, being 10 minutes late, and then examining the issue. Anyway, back to this case study. So since he drove it for it appears 3 or 4 miles pegged, I assumed the head gasket was going to be blown. So the first step that we did was to determine what engine damage there was. So we first checked the engine oil, looking for coolant. It looked okay. We then disabled the ignition and fuel injectors, did a compression test of all 4 cylinders. No problem. So he dodged a bullet with this one. His engine integrity, head gasket was good. So then we moved to phase 2, determine what was the root cause to why his engine overheated. So what we did is we refilled the system with coolant after doing a visual physical inspection of the engine, looking for massive leaks, hose off or whatever, and it was okay. So then we ran the car. I hooked up my scan tool to get sensed engine coolant temperature, and that looked good, so I knew that the coolant sensor was tracking well. And the engine warmed up, sometimes revving it up to $2,000, holding it for a little bit, and it just kept climbing. 180, 190, 204. What I was looking for is I was holding the upper radiator hose, and when the thermostat opens, you should feel heat because it's allowing the warm coolant from the block to enter the top of the radiator. It did not get warm, but yet the block and the engine was at 204 degrees. So we knew at that point no water was going past the thermostat. That could be caused by the thermostat not opening or the water pump not moving the coolant through the system. So since the water pump is it's a Honda 4-banger, so it's tucked away in the timing belt, that's a big job. We had to know if it was that. So what we did is we removed the thermostat on a warm thermostat housing, so we did it diligently and quick. So we removed the thermostat, reassembled, started the car, felt the upper radiator hose. It immediately got warm, and we had a funnel in the radiator filler cap, and it was bubbling up with showing pressure flow. So the pump appeared to be good, so we figured it was the thermostat. We then went in the house and boiled some water, put the thermostat in, and surprisingly it opened at 190. This has happened before to me. Actually, it opened up about 195, 198. This happened to me before, and the thermostat was closed. So anyway, so we decided to replace the thermostat, the gasket, and the radiator cap. The radiator cap looked pretty old. And again, what the radiator cap does is it keeps the cooling system to a certain predefined, engineered PSI. I don't know what it is. I'll just say it's 18 PSI. And if it's more than that, the spring allows, it moves up a little bit and allows the excess fluid to go into your overflow. And then as the engine cools, it allows that coolant to be sucked back into your radiator, so it keeps the system at a certain level. So that is an integral part to your cooling system. So we replaced all that, assembled it, cleaned up some nearby grounding bolts, and we then ran the system. We wanted to make sure that the thermostat opened. We wanted to make sure the AC fan turned on appropriately. We wanted to make sure the radiator cooling fan turned on at the appropriate temperature. And we wanted to run the engine at idle at 2,000 RPM, just sitting there. That way it would warm up quicker, versus in traffic the wind would cool it down, especially since it was at night. We weren't doing it during the day. And it was great. It stayed at about 200, which made sense. The thermostat was opening up and the cooling fan was going. So we consider this a fix. What went well, we quickly progressed through the numerous tests, from compression to testing the oil to the water pump test and all of that. We only replaced necessary parts. My friend spent about $26. We cleaned and improved some of the engine grounds, which is important for the computer. And then I also started the cooling system section of this website. What could have gone better? Every job you can learn from. I forgot to bring my digital infrared thermometer. Those are handy to see the block temperature. It didn't allow me to ensure his radiator was evenly cooling. I assumed it was good because he changed it about 3 years ago. So I assume the radiator is good, but it could be blocked, right? I should have read and researched the specifications for the thermostat opening and the cooling fan switch to engage. In this case, it has its own coolant sensor that controls the fan, so that could be ailing. But in this case, it wasn't. But again, to know the system ahead of time and to know the thresholds is important. I should have properly researched how to disengage the ignition during the compression test. We wasted some time, valuable daylight, looking in the manual, and the manual wasn't so good, even though it was a Honda. We had to go online to reputable forum sites to determine how to disable it. Unfortunately, I didn't look too good when we tested the thermostat on the stove and it opened up, but I knew it was bad because it was clearly the upper radiator hose didn't get warm. And lastly, I didn't have the adapter to allow me to test the coolant system for pressure and the radiator cap for pressure. I'm actually going to get that today, and we're going to test the old cap just for the heck of it, and I'll keep it in my bailiwick of tools for the next Honda I work on. Anyway, I hope you found this case study informative and entertaining. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I hope you found the information helpful.